You going to jail, sweetheart. That's where people like you belong. Officer Garrett Finch's voice snapped like a whip in the still air of Oakmont Hills. The gated streets shimmered under the midday sun. Million-dollar homes lined up like monuments to comfort, their pristine lawns hiding decades of quiet prejudice. Finch's hand clamped down on the shoulder of the woman before him, spinning her around, slamming her palms onto the hot metal of his cruiser's hood. The woman's name was Colonel Willa Stanton, and at that moment, all her medals, all her decades of service, meant nothing to him. The hood burned against her skin. The heat seared her hands, but she didn't flinch. She'd survived sandstorms in Kandahar, nights under mortar fire in Helmand. She could survive this. I own this house, she said, her voice steady, her breath controlled. I just moved here. Finch laughed, a short, cruel sound. A black woman in Oakmont Hills? Try again. He yanked her jacket open, fabric tearing beneath his grip. Across the street, a white woman stepped out of her doorway, clutching her phone. Come outside, she shouted to her neighbors. They got her. Doors opened, curtains fluttered, and cameras lifted like drawn weapons. Finch reached for his cuffs. Hands behind your back. 30 minutes earlier, Willa had been admiring the home she'd waited 26 years to earn. For hours earlier, she had been on a stage, a decorated U.S. Army officer addressing 200 people at the Veterans Memorial Day ceremony. She'd stood tall in her full dress blues, silver eagle insignias glinting on both shoulders, a bronze star and a purple heart pinned to her chest. The mayor had introduced her with reverence. Please welcome Colonel Willa Stanton. The room had erupted in applause. Thank you for honoring those who served, she'd said into the microphone. This week, I bought a home here in Oakmont Hills. After decades of deployments, I'm finally putting down roots, building a life in this community. The audience cheered. Someone even whistled. To Willa, it had felt like peace, a word she hadn't trusted in years. She didn't tell them about the nightmares that came every night, the desert turning to blood, the Humvee exploding again and again. She didn't tell them that the house she'd just bought was supposed to be her sanctuary, her reward for everything she'd given. After the ceremony, she changed clothes in a public restroom, folded her uniform carefully, slipped into jeans and a plain jacket, planning to drop the blues off at the dry cleaner later. Then she drove to Oakmont Hills, still smiling at the idea of normal life. Her realtor had texted, Asterisk family emergency, can't meet today. So sorry, asterisk. No problem, Willa had replied. I'll look around myself. She parked 2 blocks away, a habit from years of keeping streets clear for convoys. She walked toward her new house, 2 stories of red brick, white shutters, perfect symmetry. Her dream, her peace. She took pictures from different angles, imagining where she'd place the couch, the reading lamp, the framed photos of people who didn't make it home. Across the street, a woman named Brenda Keller watched from her window. She was at the neighborhood watch and proud of it. 5 minutes passed, then 6. Brenda didn't recognize the black woman walking slowly, taking photos. That was enough for her. She picked up the phone and dialed 911. Willa's phone battery died moments later, leaving her unaware that a storm was already forming. The first flash of blue lights reflected off the house's windows. Willa turned. The police cruiser pulled up to the curb. She smiled, polite and open. Good afternoon, officer. Is everything okay? Finch stepped out, one hand near his holster. I need to see identification. Of course. She reached for her pocket carefully. Is something wrong? What are you doing in this neighborhood? I live here, she answered, pointing to the house. You live here, he repeated, disbelief dripping from each word. Yes, I just moved in this week. He squinted at the house, then back at her. This house sold for over $2 million. 2.1, she said quietly. And I bought it. He folded his arms. So you parked 2 blocks away, walked here, started taking pictures? I wanted to plan furniture placement. He repeated the phrase like a code he didn't understand. Plan things out. Yes. Well, my couch goes. My first real home in 26 years. 26 years of what? Military service. It should have mattered. It didn't. ID, he said sharply. She handed him her military identification card. He turned it over. Colonel Willa Stanton. He read aloud, flatly, with no hint of respect. Yes. This doesn't prove you own this house, he said, tossing the card back to her. No, she said, but it proves who I am. That doesn't explain why you're photographing expensive homes. I told you, this is my home. You keep saying that, he muttered. Another cruiser pulled up. Officer Alden Hayes, young and uncertain, stepped out. What have we got? Suspicious person, Finch said. Claims she owns this house. No proof. I have proof, Willa said. In my car. Where's your car? 2 blocks north. I didn't want to block driveways. Finch's jaw flexed. Convenient. Convenient, Willa repeated. Like your backup arriving before I even blinked? Watch your tone, Finch snapped. A door opened across the street. Brenda Keller emerged, her expression full of triumph. Officer Finch, thank God. I called 30 minutes ago. She's been walking around, looking in windows. We have children here. I wasn't looking in windows, Willa said, turning to her. I was looking at my house. Your house? Brenda sneered. This house has been empty 2 weeks. I know. I bought it. Brenda tilted her head, smiling coldly. What do you do for a living? I'm a colonel in the U.S. Army. How nice. You can afford this on military pay. The question wasn't curiosity, it was accusation. I've been saving for 26 years. Of course you have, Brenda said, turning to Finch. I've lived here 12 years. I know everyone. Never seen her before. Because I just moved here, Willa repeated. So you say. Finch stepped closer. Ma'am, do you have any documentation right now proving you own this property? It's in my car. Can you call someone to verify? My phone died. Hayes shifted uneasily. Something about this felt wrong. Sir, he murmured, maybe let her get her documents. Verify her story. Not now, Finch said sharply. Brenda smiled thinly. My husband's applying to officer candidate school, she said suddenly. Maybe you've heard of it. Willa's eyes narrowed. I'm familiar with OCS. Would you write him a recommendation? It depends on his record, Willa said, calm but cutting. Brenda's smile faltered. Finch lifted his radio. Dispatch, property check, 445, Sycamore Lane. Static. Then, sold last week. New owner listed as W. Stanton. Finch frowned. Confirm current resident status. Possession date shows yesterday. Still, he didn't back down. That doesn't explain why you're out here without proper ID. I showed you my military ID, she said. Not a deed, not proof of purchase. I told you those are in my car. Finch stepped closer, invading her space. Here's what I think, he said quietly. You knew this house was empty. You've been watching it. You got caught. You're wrong. Am I? He glanced to Hayes. Call the chief. We might have a situation. Sir. I said call him. Hayes pulled out his phone, reluctant. Brenda leaned in close to Finch, whispering, but not quietly enough. We can't have people like her moving in. Property values. I can't hear you, Willa said. Brenda straightened, feigning innocence. I'm concerned about our community. Your community, Willa said. Not mine. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Finch raised his hand. Everyone calm down. Ma'am, I need you to come to the station, answer some questions. I've done nothing wrong. Then you have nothing to worry about. More neighbors emerged. Phones out. Cameras rolling. Willa's heart pounded, but her posture didn't break. She'd faced enemy fire and loss, but this was different. This was her own country turning on her. The air shimmered with heat and tension. Finch's hand hovered near his belt. While we wait, keep your hand where I can see them. I'm not going anywhere, she said. Good, because if you try to leave, that's obstruction. She said nothing. The silence screamed louder than words. 15 minutes felt like a lifetime. Then the radio crackled again. Dispatch, background check, Willa Stanton. No warrants. Clean record. Military service confirmed. Hayes exhaled in relief. Finch's jaw clenched. That doesn't prove you own this house, he muttered. A black SUV pulled up. Sergeant Vincent Crowley, Finch's superior, and his cousin, stepped out. What's the situation? Suspicious person, Finch said quickly. Claims ownership. No proof. My story hasn't changed, Willa said evenly. Crowley typed on his tablet. Records show W. Stanton purchased this 6 days ago. Cash. $2.1 million. That you? Yes. Prove it. My documents are in my car. Why haven't we retrieved them? Crowley asked. She only mentioned it recently. Finch said. I said it immediately, Willa corrected. The street had filled now, half the neighborhood watching. Phones recording from every angle. Crowley sighed. Ma'am, for safety, place your hands on the vehicle. Why? Routine check. I've done nothing wrong. Then you have nothing to worry about. She hesitated. Help me, she whispered to Hayes. He looked away. 6 phones recording. She knew what this looked like. She turned slowly, placed her hands on the hot hood again. Keep them there, Finch ordered. He stepped behind her, his hands running down her sides, professional but invasive, public, humiliating. He reached the bulk under her jacket. What's this? My uniform. Why wear a uniform under a jacket? I forgot to drop it at the cleaner. Open the jacket. Why? For safety. You just searched me. Open it slowly. Willa closed her eyes. She knew what came next. She grasped the zipper with shaking hands. Not from fear, but from fury. She pulled it down. 1 inch. 2. The gleam of dark blue fabric appeared. Another inch. Brass buttons, polished, catching the sun. Then ribbons. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, campaign medals from Iraq and Afghanistan. Finally, the silver eagle insignias revealed themselves, wings outstretched. Finch froze. His face drained white. The street fell silent. Even the birds stopped. Every camera caught the same image. A black woman in a torn civilian jacket, her uniform blazing beneath, her rank gleaming like judgment. Crowley straightened instinctively. Hayes's mouth fell open. Brenda Keller took a step back. Finch realized too late. He had humiliated a decorated U.S. Army colonel in her own driveway, on camera, in front of witnesses. The eagle on her shoulder glared back at him, not with vengeance, but with truth. And in that moment, everything changed. The bully had met the legend. For a long moment after the reveal, no one moved. The street, once buzzing with whispers, stood suspended in stunned silence. The sunlight bounced off the polished brass buttons on Willa Stanton's uniform, turning her into something undeniable. Not a suspect, not an intruder, but a soldier who had given her life to a country that now questioned her right to exist in her own driveway. Officer Finch's hand hovered midair, as though touching her again would burn through the last of his arrogance. Sergeant Crowley, his cousin and superior, straightened unconsciously into the posture of a man standing before rank. Hayes, the young officer, whispered to no one, "Oh my God." Willa's voice cut through the silence. Colonel Willa Stanton, United States Army, 26 years of service. As I've been telling you. Finch found his voice small and defensive. That doesn't prove you own this house. Are you accusing me of stolen valor now? She asked, her tone sharpening like a blade. Brenda Keller tried to step back into the light, desperate to reclaim control. Uniforms can be bought online, she said, her voice trembling but defiant. Hayes turned toward her. Not those ribbons. You can't fake those. My father served, he had the same ones. Bronze Star with Valor, Combat Action Ribbon, Purple Heart. Those are earned. Crowley looked uneasy. Colonel Stanton, you spoke at the veterans' ceremony this morning, didn't you? I did, she replied. I was there, he admitted, the weight of realization pressing on every word. Your speech was excellent. And with that, the silence grew heavier. He had seen her honored just hours ago, and now she stood in handcuffs, accused of trespassing on her own property. Finch's jaw worked. Sergeant, maybe we need to apologize. Hayes interrupted, surprising even himself. His voice wavered, but the words were clear. This shouldn't have happened. It was the first real apology she'd heard all day. Willa nodded once. Thank you, she said softly, though her tone carried the weight of command. She reached in her pocket and pulled out 3 silver keys. These were handed to me by the title company on Tuesday. Want to test them? No one answered. She turned toward her door, each step deliberate. The cameras followed her. The first key slid into the lock with a metallic scrape and turned with a clean, final click. The sound cut through the air like judgment. She opened the door, revealing the empty interior beyond. Her voice carried, firm and unwavering. "My house." Crowley removed his hat. "Colonel, on behalf of the Oakmont Police Department, I apologize for this misunderstanding." Willa turned slowly, her eyes steady. "Misunderstanding? Is that what this is?" No one spoke. "How many white people have you detained for walking in this neighborhood?" she demanded. "How many have you searched for taking pictures of their own homes?" Still silence. "This wasn't a misunderstanding," she said. "It was racial profiling." "Say it." Crowley's jaw clenched. He didn't say it. Her attention shifted to Brenda. "Your name?" "Brenda Keller," the woman said, chin lifting. "Your husband is Todd Keller," Willa continued. "His officer candidate school application crossed my desk last week. I'm one of 3 reviewing officers." The color drained from Brenda's face. "Your husband needs a senior officer recommendation," Willa said evenly. "You knew that." Brenda tried to recover, her voice thin and shaking. "Power like yours cuts both ways, Colonel." "It does," Willa said. "And so does integrity." Brenda turned and walked back to her house without another word. Willa faced Finch again. "You responded to a call about what? A black woman walking? That's not a crime." He started to speak, but the words collapsed under the truth. 3 police cars," she continued, "for one unarmed woman who showed you her ID and offered proof. You detained me, searched me, humiliated me. You did all that because of the color of my skin." Finch muttered something about procedure, but even he didn't believe it anymore. Hayes took a step forward. "Ma'am, my body cam recorded everything," he said quietly. "Good," Willa replied. "Someone needs to tell the truth." Crowley looked at her, then at Finch. "Colonel Stanton, you're free to go. We'll review this incident." She stared at him. "You'll review it, or you'll bury it?" Crowley didn't answer. "I'll be speaking with your chief tomorrow," she said finally. "Expect that." Hayes nodded. "Yes, ma'am." When she stepped into her home and closed the door behind her, the weight of the last hour pressed down all at once. She stood in the quiet emptiness, bare floors, unopened boxes, sunlight filtering through the windows. For the first time, the house didn't feel like peace. It felt like a battlefield. Outside, the neighborhood was already retreating, doors closing, curtains falling. But it was too late. The footage was already online. The moment Finch's hand touched her jacket, someone had gone live. Within an hour, her name, Colonel Willa Stanton, was everywhere. Black Army colonel detained in her own driveway. Racial profiling in Oakmont Hills. The views multiplied by the minute. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Hashtags filled every screen. Hashtag justice for all. Hashtag Finch must go. Hashtag Colonel Stanton. In another house across town, Brenda Keller scrolled through the video in horror. The comments sliced through her pride like glass. "You called the cops on a colonel? You started this. You ruined your husband's career." Then she saw one comment that froze her in place. "Finch did this to my brother last year. Same neighborhood. Nobody listened." Miguel Santos. Another followed. "He stopped my nephew. Searched him for no reason. Finch must go." A third. "He humiliated me in the hospital parking lot. I filed a complaint. They dismissed it." 3 victims. 3 voices. One name, Finch. The pattern had begun to surface. Meanwhile, in his patrol car, Finch was already on the phone, voice tight with panic. "She's got everything on camera. This is going to blow up. I need help." In another car down the street, Hayes sat still, staring at the screen of his laptop. The body cam footage loaded before him, the truth playing out frame by frame. Finch's words, Brenda's voice, the reveal, all of it there. His hand hovered over the upload button. He'd been warned, never upload without approval. But he remembered his father, a sergeant who once told him, "Son, the truth only hurts if you hide it." He clicked. The file uploaded. The system flagged it automatically, triggering internal alerts, connecting Finch's name to previous complaints. Red markers flared across the database. 3 prior reports. 3 dismissed, all handled by Sergeant Crowley. By nightfall, the story had reached national news. The mayor called. The Pentagon called. Veterans groups called. Willa's phone, now recharged, buzzed nonstop. Her former commanding officer sent a message. Asterisk, you good, Colonel? Saw the video. The world saw it too. Asterisk. When an unknown number appeared, she answered cautiously. Colonel Stanton, the voice said. This is Chief Clifford Brennan, Oakmont Police. I'm on my way to your house. Her heart stuttered. The name triggered an old memory. Afghanistan, 2005. A burning Humvee. A young private screaming in the sand. That private's name had been Clifford Brennan. He arrived 20 minutes later. He stepped out of his car, older now, hair grayer, but his eyes the same. He approached her door and knocked. When she opened it, neither spoke at first. Recognition filled the silence. Colonel Stanton, he said finally. May I come in? She stepped aside. He removed his hat. I'm sorry for what happened today. For Finch, for Crowley, for all of it. Are you sorry it happened? She asked quietly. Or sorry you have to deal with it? Both, he admitted. But mostly the first. He paused, then said the words she'd been waiting to hear all day. What Finch did was wrong. It was racial profiling. Willa exhaled, her shoulders easing just slightly. Thank you, she said. I need your statement, he continued. It'll go straight to internal affairs. Finch has 3 prior complaints. All similar. All dismissed. 3, she repeated. Crowley buried them. Nepotism. Willa turned to the window. How many others didn't even file? Dozens, he said quietly. But this time it won't be buried. Hayes uploaded footage. The IA already has it. Agent Calloway's on it. She doesn't miss a thing. And if I refuse? Then Finch walks, Brennan said. And the next person won't have your rank to protect them. Willa nodded slowly. Fine. Let's document everything. They sat on the floor, side by side, surrounded by unopened boxes and fading sunlight. She recounted every detail. The call, the confrontation, the search, the moment of humiliation. When she finished, Brennan looked at her, jaw tight. You were afraid, he said softly. Her voice cracked. I've faced IEDs, insurgents, ambushes, but this was my own country turning on me. In my own driveway. Brennan nodded. Then we make sure it never happens again. He rose to leave. You once pulled me out of a burning vehicle, he said. You saved my life. I intend to return the favor, in the only way that matters now. Willa met his eyes. Then do your job, Chief. I will, he said, because you taught me what that means. He stepped out into the night. Willa closed the door behind him. The house was still empty, but something had changed. The air felt alive with truth, and the storm she'd survived today was only the beginning. Tomorrow, the world would start asking questions. And this time, there would be no silence to hide behind. Morning came quietly, sunlight spilling through bare windows onto the boxes still stacked in Colonel Willa Stanton's living room. The house that had felt like a fortress of solitude now hummed with restless energy. She hadn't slept much. Too many messages, too many memories, too much noise. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unfamiliar number. Miguel Santos, asterisk, Colonel Stanton. I saw the video. Finch did the same thing to me 2 years ago. If you need anything, I'm here, asterisk. She stared at the screen. 2 years ago. There had been others. She typed back, asterisk, you were brave enough to file a complaint. That took courage, asterisk. The reply came instantly. Asterisk, can we talk? There are things you should know, asterisk. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just about her anymore. She typed, asterisk tomorrow. My house, asterisk. When the next morning came, a car pulled into her driveway. 3 people stepped out, strangers until that moment, but all of them carried the same look she had worn the day before. Disbelief hardened into quiet resolve. Miguel Santos was first, mid-30s, wearing a delivery uniform. Next came Devin Caldwell, a teenager in a baseball cap who kept his hands tucked nervously into his hoodie. Last was Dr. Nora Whitmore, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and the measured calm of someone who'd learned to bury anger under professionalism. Colonel Stanton, Miguel said softly. Thank you for seeing us. Come in, Willa replied. They sat together in the living room, still half empty, but no longer quiet. Miguel spoke first. It was December. 2 years ago. I was delivering groceries to my sister's house 3 blocks from here. Finch pulled me over, said I drove erratically. I wasn't. He made me get out. Searched my van for nearly an hour. Every box, every bag. Found nothing. No apology, no ticket. Just left me standing there in the cold. You filed a complaint? Willa asked. Yes. Sergeant Crowley dismissed it. No evidence. Devin leaned forward. He stopped me, too. I was walking home from school. Said I matched a description. Made me empty my pockets, my backpack right on the sidewalk. People filmed. My friends saw. I was 16. Willa's heart sank. My mom filed a complaint, he continued. Crowley said it was reasonable suspicion. Case closed. Nora's voice came last, calm, precise. I'm a doctor at Oakmont Memorial. 10 months ago, I went out to my car around 2 a.m. for coffee before a long shift. Finch pulled up, said I looked suspicious. I told him I worked there, but he made me call my supervisor to prove it. 2 in the morning. My boss had to come down from the 4th floor. Finch still wrote me up for loitering. The hospital filed a complaint. Crowley dismissed it, too. 3 people. 3 stories. All the same ending. How many times did you tell your stories? Willa asked quietly. Once each, Miguel said. Nobody cared. But when they saw your video, Devin said, we realized we weren't alone. Now we want to testify, Nora added. We're ready. A car pulled up outside. A woman stepped out. Dark suit, crisp posture, briefcase in hand. She knocked firmly on the door. Willa opened it. Colonel Stanton? Iris Calloway. Internal Affairs. Willa nodded. You want to hear from all of us. Calloway stepped inside, scanning the faces. Who are they? Past victims, Willa said. Complaints dismissed by Sergeant Crowley. Calloway's expression hardened. Names. Miguel Santos, Devin Caldwell, Nora Whitmore. The agent opened her briefcase, sliding a tablet onto the table. I have all 3 cases in my system, each marked insufficient evidence. That changes today. She tapped the screen. The first video began to play. Hayes' body cam footage from the previous day. The room watched silently. Finch's approach. His escalating tone. Brenda Keller's accusation. Willa's composure. The search. The reveal. The moment of silence when the truth broke the spell of racism. Calloway paused the video. That's evidence layer 1. Visual confirmation of profiling and unlawful search. She opened another file. A recording of Brenda's 911 call. There's a black woman walking around taking pictures. She doesn't belong here. The dispatcher asked, what's suspicious? Brenda hesitated. We just don't see people like her here. Calloway stopped the playback. The words hung in the air like smoke. People like her, Devin whispered. Same phrase Finch used with me, Miguel said. Calloway nodded grimly. Coded language. It's the same playbook every time. That's evidence layer 2. Racial profiling by both caller and responding officer. She opened a new file, scrolling through a spreadsheet. Now look at this. Finch's stop data for the last 2 years. She turned the tablet toward them. 83 traffic or pedestrian stops. 71 were non-white. Miguel blinked. What percentage is that? 85%, Calloway said. Nora frowned. But Oakmont Hills is what? 90% white. 92, Calloway confirmed. That's not policing. That's hunting. The word hit like a gunshot. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Willa said quietly, hunting us. Like we're the enemy. Yes, Calloway said. And it ends now. She scrolled again. Only 4 of those 83 stops resulted in citations. Less than 5%, meaning he had no legitimate reason to stop the others. Devin sat back, stunned. So he just stopped people for being black, or brown, or Asian, Calloway said. You're not isolated cases, you're the pattern. She pulled up one more file, Crowley's internal reviews. Each of your complaints was dismissed by the same supervisor. Word for word, she read aloud. Santos, procedure followed, no bias. Caldwell, reasonable suspicion, no excessive force. Whitmore, routine security check, unfounded. She looked up. 3 identical dismissals. Same language. Same corruption. Crowley's his cousin, Willa said bitterly. Calloway nodded. And that's evidence layer 3, nepotism and cover-up. Finally, she opened the last document, Chief Brennan's sworn statement from the night before. She read the closing line aloud. Colonel Willa Stanton deserves more than an apology. She deserves a system that didn't need her rank to see her humanity. The room went still. When Calloway closed her tablet, her voice softened. Based on this evidence, I'm recommending Finch's immediate termination and Crowley's suspension pending investigation. No appeals. Miguel exhaled. After all this time, someone's finally listening. I'm listening, Calloway said. And so is the department. Nora wiped her eyes. It's been years. Years too long, Calloway replied. But this is how it changes, one truth at a time. Willa stood, her presence commanding but calm. How long will this take? Finch's hearing is in 72 hours, Calloway said. Crowley's case will follow, but he won't survive it. And this, she gestured around them, this group, your testimonies, will make it undeniable. Systemic. Unforgivable. Willa looked around the room, at Miguel, Devin, and Nora, three people who had been invisible until now. We're ready, she said. They nodded together. For 2 hours, Calloway recorded their statements. Every word, every detail. She asked precise questions, took notes, and cataloged emotion without losing empathy. When it was done, she packed her tablet and briefcase. You'll testify at the hearing, she said. All four of you. The union will fight hard, but truth travels faster now. Be ready. Willa nodded. We're ready. Calloway paused at the door. Off the record, Colonel. Thank you for not staying silent. People with your rank usually take the apology and move on. You didn't. I couldn't, Willa said. Not when others suffered before me. That's why this will stick, Calloway replied. That's why we'll win. When the door closed behind her, silence returned. Not heavy this time, charged. Now, what? Devin asked. Miguel pulled out his phone. Now we tell everyone. Every news outlet. Every platform. They buried us before. They can't now. I'll contact the hospital, Nora said. They'll go public, too. Willa's phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters, advocates, veterans, all wanting to talk. She looked at them, her voice steady. We control the narrative. We tell the truth, together. Together, Miguel repeated. They exchanged numbers, a small but powerful act of alliance. When they left, the house fell quiet again, though it no longer felt empty. It felt alive. Moments later, her phone rang. Colonel Stanton, came Hayes's voice. They're recommending Finch's termination. I wanted to thank you. What you did gave me courage. You uploaded the footage, she reminded him. Because you stood your ground, he said. The union called me a traitor, but the chief promoted me. Detective Hayes now. She smiled. Congratulations. Keep doing what's right. After he hung up, she sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the keys in her hand. 2 days ago, this house had been her peace. Yesterday, her prison. Now it was headquarters. The first war of her civilian life had begun, and for the first time, she wasn't fighting alone. 3 days later, the world turned its eyes to Oakmont Hills. Inside the municipal hearing chamber, cameras lined the walls, journalists filled every seat, and a low electric buzz pulsed through the air, that familiar hum before history shifts. At the center sat Officer Garrett Finch, shoulders tight beneath the weight of his own silence. His lawyer whispered rehearsed lines. He didn't listen. Across the room, Colonel Willa Stanton took her seat, her uniform pressed, her medals gleaming softly under fluorescent light. Not as armor, but as truth made visible. Agent Iris Calloway stood before the board, composed and meticulous. This hearing concerns the unlawful detention and racial profiling of Colonel Willa Stanton, as well as 3 prior dismissed complaints against Officer Finch. Her voice carried clean and steady. Our findings reveal a consistent pattern of discriminatory behavior, ignored and protected by Sergeant Vincent Crowley. She played the body cam footage. The room watched the moment again. The confrontation, the disbelief, the search, the reveal. Finch's hand tugging Willa's jacket. The flash of blue uniform. The audible gasp from the crowd outside. The eagle on her shoulder gleaming like judgment. The silence afterward, more damning than any shout. Then came the next clip, Brenda Keller's 911 call. There's a black woman walking around taking pictures. She doesn't belong here. The phrase people like her echoed across the chamber like an accusation centuries old. Calloway's evidence unfolded piece by piece. Data showing 83 stops, 71 targeting non-white individuals in a 92% white neighborhood. Only 4 citations issued. A pattern impossible to deny. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One cleared his throat. Sergeant Crowley supervised these reviews? Yes, Calloway replied. Every one of them dismissed. Identical wording. Crowley is Finch's cousin. That landed like a bomb. Finch's lawyer rose, sputtering about procedural fairness. Calloway waited, then replied evenly. Fairness is what this department has denied for years. When it was Willa's turn, she stood and faced the board, not as a victim, but as a soldier who had fought too long to stay silent. I served 26 years in the United States Army, she began. I've seen war. I've seen loss. I've buried friends under flags folded by men who looked like Officer Finch. I believe that when I came home, I'd earned a right to live in peace, in any neighborhood, on any street, under any sky I defended. Her eyes swept the room. But last week, I learned peace isn't guaranteed by service. It's granted or denied by prejudice. Officer Finch didn't see a homeowner. He saw color. He saw threat. And Sergeant Crowley protected him, not because he was right, but because he was family. She let the silence breathe. You can't fix what you won't name. So name it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was racism. And it's time this department, and this town, admits it. When she sat down, even Finch couldn't meet her eyes. One by one, Miguel, Devin, and Nora took the stand. Their voices wove a chorus of shared pain. The cold December night Miguel was searched for nothing. The humiliation of Devin's empty pockets on the sidewalk. The shame Nora felt when a police officer made her prove she was a doctor. Together, their stories stripped away any illusion of coincidence. This wasn't an isolated mistake. It was a pattern. By the time Calloway closed her presentation, the outcome was inevitable. Based on the evidence, she concluded, I recommend immediate termination of Officer Finch, suspension of Sergeant Crowley pending prosecution, and full reopening of every complaint dismissed under his supervision. The board voted unanimously. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed to file. Finch stared straight ahead, expression hollow, career collapsing like ash in his hands. He didn't protest. He didn't apologize. There was nothing left to say. Outside, the crowd erupted. Cheers, tears, and chants rising in the afternoon air. Veterans stood beside teenagers, neighbors beside strangers. The movement that began with one video had become something much larger. 2 weeks later, Willa opened her front door to a small gathering. Miguel, Devin, Nora, Hayes, Chief Brennan, Agent Calloway, Amanda, and 3 members of the city council. The living room, once bare, now held furniture, framed photos, and warmth. The walls no longer echoed with loneliness. They resonated with purpose. Brennan unfolded a document from his folder. The hearing concluded with full accountability, he said. Officer Finch, terminated without appeal. Sergeant Crowley, suspended without pay, under criminal investigation for obstruction and falsifying reports. 23 complaints reopened. Miguel exhaled. 23 people. His voice trembled. 23 chances for justice. Calloway added, all 3 of your cases, reinstated and settled. Official apologies. $50,000 each in restitution. Nora nodded, eyes glistening. Money can't undo it. But being heard matters. It does, Calloway said. And this, she pointed to the council members, is where it goes beyond individuals. Councilman Reeves cleared his throat. Starting next month, Oakmont PD will adopt new reforms. All complaints sent directly to Independent Internal Affairs, mandatory bias training, automated body cam uploads, and creation of the Oakmont Community Oversight Committee. Every case reviewed by civilians. Hayes grinned. Real change. Amanda smiled across the room. What about the rest of the state? Calloway's expression softened. Already in motion. 3 state legislators have proposed the Stanton Act. Mandatory civilian review boards, independent investigations, and automatic transparency laws for all departments. Willa blinked. The what? The Stanton Act, Calloway repeated. Named after you. I didn't do this alone. No, Calloway agreed. You all did together. Across the room, Hay spoke up. Chief promoted me to detective. My first assignment, train officers statewide on ethics and accountability. We're calling it the Integrity Program. You inspired it. Willa smiled faintly. Then make it count. The meeting turned into plans, ideas, outlines, outreach programs, mentorships, public forums. The energy was contagious. Even Brennan, who had once led a department built on silence, seemed lighter. It's strange, he admitted quietly. I used to think reform meant risk. Now I see it means redemption. When the others left, Amanda lingered. The house had grown quiet again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was alive with what had been built inside it. You did it, Amanda said softly. We did it, Willa corrected. How does it feel? Strange, she said after a pause. I bought this house for peace. Instead, I found war. She smiled. But maybe this was the kind of war worth fighting. Amanda nodded. You didn't just win. You changed the map. Willa's phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number. James Morrison, Ohio, ***, police stopped me last week. Same thing. But I knew my rights because of your video. Recorded everything. Filed complaint. Thank you, ***. She read it aloud. Amanda smiled. You see? It's spreading. Another message appeared. Todd Keller, Brenda's husband. Colonel Stanton, I withdrew my OCS application. Not because I think you'd reject it, because I need to be better first. I'm divorcing Brenda, volunteering with the ACLU, and teaching bias awareness. If I reapply in a year, I hope I'll be worthy, ***. Willa's eyes softened. She typed back, ** growth takes courage, Todd. Keep at it, ***. Outside, the evening light melted gold across the quiet street. Neighbors waved now, tentative but genuine. Miguel's sister dropped off cookies. The same cul-de-sac that once watched her humiliation now greeted her with respect. For the first time, Oakmont Hills looked like a place she could belong. Brennan's message arrived last. * Crowley terminated. Pension revoked. Charges filed. *. She typed a single reply. * Justice isn't revenge. It's correction. *. As night settled, she walked to the window. The same street where she was once handcuffed now reflected her strength back at her. Inside, her uniform hung in the closet, visible but no longer defining her. Power wasn't the medals or the rank. It was in standing up when silence was easier. It was in choosing to fight, not for pride but for others. For Miguel, for Devin, for Nora, for Hayes, for Brennan, for everyone who came after, for the truth. 2 weeks after the hearing, the Stanton house no longer felt like a fortress or a battlefield. It felt like a home. The boxes were unpacked. The walls, once bare, now held framed photographs. Her unit in Afghanistan, her late mentor Captain Thornton, her comrades in uniform. The scent of fresh paint mingled with something softer. Peace. It was fragile, imperfect, but real. Every morning, Willa watered the flowers she'd planted along the front walk. The same sidewalk where she'd once stood in handcuffs was now lined with marigolds and hydrangeas. Neighbors waved. Some apologized in quiet voices that trembled between shame and sincerity. Miguel's sister stopped by with cookies and a handwritten note that simply said, "Welcome for real." For the first time in her life, Willa allowed herself to believe that healing was possible. Sunday morning, she drove out to the Veterans Cemetery on the edge of town. The sky stretched pale blue above rows of white stones. She walked slowly to one grave. Captain Daniel Thornton, her old commanding officer, the man who had once told her, "You can win battles, Stanton, but real victory is what you build afterward." She knelt, placing a bouquet at his headstone. "I bought a house, sir," she whispered. "Put down roots. It didn't go how I planned, but I think you'd be proud. I stood up when it mattered. Used my rank for something that mattered." The wind moved through the trees like a quiet salute. "I'm home now," she said. "Really home." When she rose, there was calm in her chest. Not the armor of strength, but the peace that comes from surviving the truth. Driving back, she passed a sign at the entrance of Oakmont Hills. Someone had spray-painted over the town's old motto, a tradition of excellence. Now it read, "A just community for all." She smiled. For once, graffiti told the truth. That evening, her doorbell rang. Standing on the porch was Devin Caldwell, the teenager who had once trembled as he recounted his humiliation. Now he stood taller, confidence in his eyes. "Colonel Stanton," he said, grinning. "I got into college." "College?" she said, smiling. "That's incredible." "Criminal justice major," he added proudly. "Maybe law school later. I want to fix the system from the inside." She opened the door wider. "Come in." They sat in the living room, sunlight fading into gold. Devin told her about his dreams, to become a lawyer, to defend those who didn't have her strength or her platform. When he asked for a letter of recommendation, she laughed softly. "You already wrote it yourself, Devin. Every word you spoke at that hearing proved who you are." When he left, she watched him walk down the street, head high, unafraid. That was victory, not in courtrooms or legislation, but in the quiet restoration of dignity. In the days that followed, life began to settle, but not stand still. News spread of the Stanton Act passing its first legislative phase. Other cities reached out for guidance. Hayes, now Detective Hayes, sent her updates about the first class of recruits under the new integrity program. Chief Brennan forwarded progress reports from departments statewide. Reform wasn't perfect, it never was, but it had begun. And more stories arrived. From Ohio, a man named James Morrison texted, "Astor's police stopped me last week. Same as you. But I knew my rights because of your video. Recorded everything. Filed complaint. Thank you, asterisk." From a woman in Arizona, asterisk, "Your courage gave me words when I had none. My son was profiled. I fought back, asterisk." From Todd Keller, Brenda's husband, came the most unexpected message of all. Asterisk, "Colonel, I withdrew my OCS application. Not because you'd reject it, because I need to be better first. I'm divorcing Brenda, volunteering with the ACLU, and leading bias awareness classes at my base. If I reapply, I want to earn it the right way. Asterisk. Willa read it twice before replying. Asterisk, "Growth takes courage, Todd. Keep choosing it." Asterisk. Each message was a small ripple from the wave she'd started. One act of truth resonating through others. By the second weekend, she found herself sitting in her living room surrounded by familiar faces. Miguel, Nora, Devin, Amanda, Hayes, Brennan, and 3 council members. They were no longer victims and officials, but collaborators. The Oakmont Community Oversight Committee had officially convened its first meeting right in her home. Brennan stood to speak, reading from a freshly printed document. Officer Finch, terminated, no appeal. Sergeant Crowley, fired, pension revoked, facing criminal charges for falsified reports. 23 reopened cases now under review. The room was quiet for a beat. Not disbelief, but reverence. New policies in effect, Brennan continued. Independent review for every complaint. Civilian oversight on all investigations. Automatic uploads from every officer's body cam. The old system's gone. Hayes nodded. We're already seeing changes. New recruits are learning accountability first, not last. Callaway added, the Stanton Act passed committee today. It's heading to the full state assembly next week. Amanda turned to Willa, eyes soft. You did this. No, Willa said, shaking her head. We did this. When the meeting ended and everyone left, only Amanda remained. The house grew quiet again, but it was a good kind of quiet, the sound of peace finding its way home. Amanda smiled. How does it feel to be the reason a state law exists? Willa chuckled. Strange. I bought this house for peace. Got war instead. But maybe that's what peace really is, the space you protect, not just for yourself, but for everyone else. Amanda nodded. You didn't just protect it. You defined it. When she left, Willa walked to the window. Oakmont Hills shimmered under the streetlights. A community that once doubted her now thrived because she refused to yield. Her phone buzzed once more. Brennan again. Asterisk Crowley charged. Justice served. Asterisk. She typed back. Asterisk justice isn't an ending, Chief. It's the beginning of something better. Asterisk. She set the phone down and looked around her living room. The couch, the small table, the sunlight slanting across her medals on the wall. 2 weeks ago, this had been a symbol of fear. Now it was a monument to resilience. She turned toward the hallway. Her uniform hung neatly in the closet, pressed and ready. But it was no longer the first thing people saw when they met her. Here, she wasn't Colonel Stanton first. She was simply Willa, neighbor, friend, mentor, citizen. That, she thought, is what true equality feels like. She moved to her bedroom, turned off the light, and paused at the window. Across the street, Miguel's delivery van was parked. Nora's office light glowed faintly in the distance. Devin's laughter drifted from somewhere down the block. The world had changed, not perfectly but enough. 71 stops had become 71 reasons to fight harder. 3 dismissed complaints had become 3 reopened cases. 1 video had become 1 movement. 1 voice had become many. And 1 house, the house where a colonel was once humiliated, had become a symbol of justice, courage, and belonging. As she lay down, the quiet finally felt safe. For the first time in 26 years, Willa Stanton closed her eyes without reaching for a weapon. Because at last she was home. And home, she thought, isn't just where you live. It's where you stand and say, asterisk not here. Not anymore. Not to us, asterisk. And mean it until the world listens.